Welcome back, everybody. Once again, this is Marc Lawrence, and we're all set to go against the spread on this weekend's NFL and college football cards, and it's getting down to midway point in the college football season. The National Football League is beginning to take form, and with that, we're going to talk about all of that and more on today's show. Joining us on the show, as we do each and every week, is our panel of experts, headlined by Mr. Vegas himself, the legendary Jim Feist. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. Good to see you. Andy Iskoe, also from Las Vegas, thelogicalapproach.com. Andy, how was your football week last week?
Wasn't the best. It was okay in the colleges. The pros sort of got me with a couple of contrarian plays that did not go well for the contrarians, but we are beginning to feel the onset of fall, as I'm sure Jim will acknowledge. I think for the first time in about 6 months, I had to actually wear a jacket out this morning as our temperature was about 57 degrees at 7 o'clock.
I see you got that Super Bowl shirt on, which means either it's cold or you're looking forward to the Super Bowl, one or the other.
This, is, by the way, was the Super Bowl. I wasn't at this one, but it was the 49ers and the Chargers. And if I recall correctly, the final play of the game was never telecast, and that affected a lot of props. And we had to wait like several hours to find out what the final play was because the 49ers were winning in a rout. I want to say it was a quarterback kneel down, if I remember correctly. It was never shown on TV.
Ah, wow. Good
old days.
What year was that?
96 or 97. What was it, Super Bowl? I can't even read the shirt.
That's eons ago, Andy.
That was, I think, Stan Humphries.
Oh,
and probably Steve Young.
Stan Humphries, yeah, he had his moment. Yes.
I think he played like Hubert Humphrey in that game.
Yes, exactly. Greg DePalma.
Google it for our younger viewers and listeners.
How's everything?
Either Humphries or Humphrey.
Everything's going fine. Everything's going good. I do have a question for you, Mark, regarding the coffee club.
Sure.
So do you? I know it's a lot of work. So and you have a lot invested in the time to put that together on a daily basis. Do you have any help? Do you have people who contribute with their own information, or all the opinions? Is that all you?
Well, I can tell you this, and I'm sure Jim can confirm this, but anything that you do and you do well is almost always done with the help of others, and you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And the people that I have been able to surround myself with the Playbook are excellent at what it is they do, and I get a lot of help putting the midweek together. I primarily do the picks, do the game write-ups, but then I hand everything else off to our crew. Kathy Milstead and her husband, Charles, put everything together. Kathy's our stats girl. Charles is our graphics experts per se. And then customer support takes care of everything. So it's a daily task. We get it ready every night before I hit the sack. And then it goes out at 6 a.m. Eastern in the morning, delivered by email, hopefully in everybody's email box. Wow. Or if not, people don't get it, they can always see the Daily Coffee Club online at playbooksports.com. When you go to that website, just click on the Coffee Club box and you'll be able to read the Daily Coffee Club on the website.
So you get to read it in the morning when you wake up. I get to read it earlier in the morning when I go to sleep at 3 a.m.
Actually, you go to bed at 3 a.m.?
Many nights I do.
Wow.
Wow, then you go to bed a little bit before I do, Andy, because I get to bed
like 4 o'clock. At 3 a.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I brought that up because I wanted to, because I'm assuming one of your contributors wrote the piece the other day on the Bet You Didn't Know Aaron Glenn piece.
Yes.
And so I just want to let the person know, because he probably doesn't know I'm the resident Jet fan here. But the bottom line is that last part, I'm okay with everything he wrote except the last part where he says, if the Jets finish the season with less than 2 wins and post the worst record in the NFL, there's a chance Glenn is one and done in New York. My response to that is he is not going to be one and done in New York. He is 100% coming back. This is a long-term approach. He's beloved with the franchise. I know a lot of people ripped him this week because it was a nationally televised game. And it was their worst offensive performance. And when you merge those two things together, you get what you get this week, where everybody's piling on and he's in over his head. I can't believe what happened at the end of the first half. Well, what happened at the end of the first half was exactly what he said in the press conference, which was, there was only a few seconds left. He didn't want Denver to get the ball back. We had the ball in the second half. I'm sure he could have been a little bit more honest with saying, hey, our offense fucking sucks at this point. So I just want to go in the locker room and be happy.
Did they have timeouts left, though, after the 2-minute warning?
It was one of the situations where he even admitted afterwards. He said, the one thing I wish I would have done is he had one timeout left. He says, I wish what I would have done is call timeout, 5 seconds to go, chuck a Hail Mary. But other than that, that's all it was about. It wasn't about trying to move the ball into, 3 or 4 more plays. And of course, because of that, everybody who doesn't watch the Jets and the national TV, they don't know what they're doing. Look how discombobulated they are. It's just such ridiculous overreaction for people who just don't watch the team on a weekly basis. And that's why I'm saying, by the way, here's the other thing too, is they almost beat a team that beat the Eagles. And why, besides the travel and the typical, hey, we had a letdown game, was Jermaine Johnson.
3 of their 6 losses were by just 2 points. So it's not like they've been non-competitive.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson played for the first time since week 1. Their kick returner played for the first time since week 1, and he had great kick returns in the game. Their special teams have been awful all season. So they had guys healthy in the game, especially on defense, that haven't been there. And this is what happens. Nobody cares when the Jets are losing teams. I say this all the time. Nobody cares when losing teams have injuries. They don't say, the Cleveland Browns or the New York Jets, the reason that they're losing is look at their injuries. They don't look at that. They don't care. They just say they suck. But when the good teams like the Niners and all those teams have injured, look at all the injuries they have. That's why they're not. So it's the same thing. And look, they got to get over it, and they will. My point is that Aaron Glenn is perfectly fine with the Jets. He's going to do a great job. It takes time. People just are impatient. And I just get a kick, especially out of the New York media, who just absolutely destroyed him.
How would they react this week if they lose, as the lines makers think they will? I don't necessarily agree with that. But if they lose to Carolina, which is basically, when you look at their schedule, this is the game that they are most likely to have an opportunity to win, at least as things stand now. How will the
Well, they do play the Bengals next week.
React? What's that?
They do play the Bengals next week. So,
but they get Carolina at home. So
that's true. Yeah, they're probably going to be.
By the way, Carolina, that's 0-3 on the road, and is favored for only the second time since the end of the 2022 season.
Yeah.
When was the last time?
And the previous time was when Carolina was favored last year late against Dallas, 2.5-point home favorite. They lost outright by 30-14 or something like that.
And what was that, Jim, you were asking?
Excuse me. When was the last time Carolina won a road game?
2022, was that, Andy?
No, that I was talking about when they were last favored in any game.
No, I'm just talking about winning.
Winning a road game.
Win this game in order to cover.
Well, it had to be last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a bad team, but they had some wins.
Yeah, they won twice on the road last year.
Yeah.
Did they really? Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, look, no question. The point is, and see, I look at that point, Andy, as you're saying as extra motivation why I think the team will either win this week or next week, because that they do not want to go into the bye in 2 weeks dealing with all this crap from the New York media. So the fact that they're as healthy as they've been all season, I think they're going to go ahead and put in their best effort.
Well, you sound like a lot of my fellow Cleveland Browns fans, Greg. Total frustration, being in love with the football team that forgot how to win.
Excuse me, Mark, you got it doubly bad. You got the Dolphins and the Browns as regional teams of yours.
Well,
now, let's take a look at that game. That's probably the worst weather in the entire league this week. It's going to be raining. It's going to be windy, and you're going to have almost 30-mile-an-hour gusts.
Nice.
What game are you talking?
Cleveland.
The Browns.
That's right. You get both the teams playing each other this week.
So in Miami, look at the total. We're already down to 37.5.
Yeah.
So it's just rain. No, it's not cold enough for snow, right?
Well, no, I don't think it's cold enough. But it rain, wind, and
that total opened at 40.5.
41.5.
And they what do you think? And they want to move. Where do they want to move to?
Well, they're moving to a suburb in Cleveland. It's no big move. It's
Brook
called
Park,
Brook
right?
Park. It's called Brook Park. It's where an old Ford Motor factory used to be before they closed up, and they bought the land. and they're in the process of building a new stadium now, a domed stadium.
Oh, please.
Yep,
Please.
it's going to be a domed stadium.
That's it. Take their home field advantage away. Build a
well,
dome.
I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL, with all the money involved and wanting to have as quality a product as they can, I wouldn't be surprised if they require any new stadium to be built to have a dome. Maybe even a retractable dome would be the best, because you could then have it in nice weather. But if you're talking about wanting to host Super Bowls in certain places, I think that may be one of the requisites for.
Well, this will be a retractable dome that they'll put in there, and if they wanted to really play spoiler on a cold, bitter winter day, they could open the roof.
Keep that sucker open, baby. It's 0 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Dolphins come into town in 0-degree weather. That's
there
it.
you go.
The Dolphins are going to be playing in cold, windy, rainy weather. They're not really a team that plays well in those kind of conditions.
Yeah, and they're already from this past week. They're already seem like they're jumping ship, and I don't understand why Tua felt the need after the case to apologize.
That was total frustration.
And why did it take? Yeah, why did it take 3 days for him to apologize?
Because he was forced to apologize. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, he's the captain of the team basically,
think, yeah.
and I had. Why would you have anything wrong with what he said a couple of days ago? Say what you want to say. Hey, if these guys aren't listening to you, then go to the media, call them out.
Well, I'm sure there was a players-only team meeting afterwards, and maybe that's where the apologies came within the meeting, and then it came forward to the public after that. But it's just total frustration on his part as well. He's a quarterback. He's making more money than only 2 other quarterbacks in the National Football League, and he has nobody that's helping him. I mean, nobody is helping him. Even when Tyreek Hill was there, Tyreek Hill was the major abuser of coming to practices and being late and doing all those things. That was basically
and
him.
Talking retirement at the end of last year.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's bad management.
Is what they need to do.
That's got to be starting with the owner, right? I mean, the owner's got to
absolutely. He's the constant, because it's the same GM. It's the same. Those are the same. As soon as you're the owner, you need someone to run the team. He's got Greer. He's been by his side for 15, 20 years. You won't get rid of the guy, and until you get rid of Greer, then you can't actually build something like a foundation. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. What's the first thing that could change the culture in Miami? You fire McDaniel and you move Weaver into the starting position, into that role. He is the perfect guy to make sure, with that disposition, to clean house and to say you're going to do it my way. Or
is that a better move than changing ownership?
Well, here's the other side of that. Here's the other side to that, Greg. Weaver's a defensive coordinator, okay? This defense of theirs is falling apart as well. They've allowed season-high yards their last 3 football games, and they have no offense to support the team. So they're getting no help on either side of the football. And if he becomes the head coach, what does he do about putting oomph into that offense? He's going to have to bring some mastermind for an offensive
That's what
coordinator.
makes this game very intriguing. You've got the league's most inept offense in Cleveland against one of their most inept defenses in Miami.
Yep.
I usually like to go with defense in those cases.
Yeah, because
I'm sorry. Yeah, I like to go with the better defense, which is Cleveland by far. Cleveland's defense is the best unit on that field.
And to show you how dumb they were, they should have traded Tyreek Hill when they had the chance. And this is what happens when you wait and wait and wait, and then you wait too long until it's late, and then he gets hurt, and then you can't trade him. They could have got something for him, but they waited too long. They waited till he got hurt, and now they can get nothing out of him. So that's how you know you're just being run by a bad franchise. They should never have brought him back. Never. They could have got something for him.
Well, guys, let's get into what the listeners and the viewers are tuning in for, and that's our observation on this week's college and pro football cards. We'll break some football games down there, as we always do. We'll start out first with the National Football League. Before we get to that, I want to remind everybody out there that's watching or listening, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. Also, pound the like button. We'd really enjoy that. And ring the bell. You'll help us out when you do that, and we'll also keep you informed and in tune on everything that we're doing here on Against the Spread on the ProLine TV podcast network. With that, let's go to the National Football League side of things, where we've got Jim Feist at hand for the first half of the show, and Jim's with us to help break down this NFL side of the football card this weekend. Let me mention this, Jim, before I set the card up here, if I can. I just did our midweek alert, which we alluded to when there's a coffee club, but I just did the midweek alert. That's our statistical newsletter. And it's free to everybody this week, by the way, who logs on at playbooksports.com Thursday after 6 p.m. Eastern. Click on the free download. You'll see it right on the homepage. You get a free copy of this week's midweek alert. You're going to like what you see. In this midweek alert, we broke down these stats and facts here, which I think are rather interesting. I'm going to break this down for you. Ole Miss and UNLV lead the country in college football in one-score wins this year with 4. Kansas State leads college football this year in one-score losses with 4. In the NFL side of things, it's Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay who lead the league in one-score wins with 4. And it's Arizona and the New York Jets who lead the league in one-score losses with, how many do you think, guys?
4.
Yes,
4. Yeah.
Exactly. So 4's been the magic number in one-score wins and losses so far this football season. It'll be a little bit relevant, and we're going to talk a little bit about it in the Georgia Ole Miss game, because there's Ole Miss sitting there with more one-score wins with 4 than any other team in the country other than UNLV. But let's get into the National Football League card side of things here this week. And if the playoffs started this week, the number 1 seeds would be, drum roll please, the Indianapolis Colts and the Tampa Bay Bucks. I can't believe the Indianapolis Colts would be a number 1 seed. To
A
me,
marketer's dream.
marketer's dream.
The Colts and the Bucks in the Super Bowl.
Well, that should be sponsored by Oscar Mayer, because the Colts are a phony baloney, man.
I hope so. I took the Chargers this week.
Yeah, and we're going to find out what the Colts are all about. But this would be, if the playoffs started this week, and this would be the AFC wildcard round pairings. It would be number 2 Pittsburgh hosting number 7 Denver. It would be number 3 Chargers hosting number 6 Jacksonville, a little bit of a surprise. And the number 4 Patriots hosting number 5 Buffalo. On the NFC side of things, it would be number 2 Green Bay hosting the Rams, number 3 San Francisco hosting number 6 Detroit, and number 4 Philadelphia hosting number 5 the Seattle Seahawks. And what I'm getting to on all this is, according to the Kenny White Power Ratings, which we use exclusively in the Playbook Football Newsletter, does a masterful job. Jim, I know you'll likely confirm this as well. He works as hard as anybody putting these point spread power ratings together in the National Football League. And his numbers are almost always spot on.
He's a very sharp, very, very smart guy.
If I recall correctly, Kenny has ratings on not just teams, every player, and I think he goes at least 2 deep, so that his power ratings take a look at position by position and put it all together as far as the team goes. Whereas most of us evaluate power ratings based on team as opposed to individual players, even offensive linemen, etc.
So what I'm getting to here, guys, this is on my I'm just saying portion part of the show, that if the playoffs started this week, according to the Kenny White Power Ratings, we would see the Pittsburgh Steelers as a 3.5-point home dog. We would see the New England Patriots as a 5-point home dog. And we would see the San Francisco 49ers as a 3-point home dog, if you can believe it, from these numbers and the way they are right now. That's the way it would all shake out here, finding these teams as dogs: Pittsburgh, San Francisco on the football card, and the New England Patriots. So we'll see how this all shakes out, moves on down the road a little bit further on. But I thought it was just interesting fodder to take.
And this is in the newsletter?
No, this is going to be in the midweek alert newsletter, right?
Okay.
So you'll read it, and I'll make sure you guys on the panel get copies of it, because it's a great statistical breakdown of what we're looking at from a statistic standpoint, rather than a trend or a fundamental or so forth and whatnot. But it'll be in this week's midweek, and it's free, like I said, to anybody watching or listening. Thursday after 6 o'clock, just go onto the playbooksports.com website and click on the free midweek alert newsletter.
By the way, Mark, one thing you do that is very, very helpful, and I think people will greatly appreciate with that midweek alert, because you talk about winning and losing in the stats. You have a nice check mark next to for each team when they've won the stats in the game, regardless of the score, regardless of the point spread. So it's very easy to see if a team has played 6 games and you've got 5 check marks, that means they've won the stats in 5 of the 6. And then if you take a look at a handful of teams, you won't see any check marks because they've lost the stats in every game.
That's a great point you bring out, Andy, and I'm glad you did, because it's one
easy
of my
to visualize.
My favorite features of the midweek is you can go right to those check marks and see who's doing their business on the field, who's actually performing and who is not. And amazingly, you'll find the Philadelphia Eagles with 0 check marks this football season here. That's why the Philadelphia Eagles, that's not why they're struggling. It's a result of their struggles, is the fact that they haven't out-yarded an opponent thus far this football season. But it's there for every college and every NFL football team. So it's an added tool to add into your arsenal for sure. And speaking about the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to be at Minnesota this Sunday, Jim. And we're going to go to you first for your opinion on the Eagles and the Vikings game. This is a matchup of who would be in the NFL playoffs if they started this particular week. What would your take would be on the Eagles and the Vikings this week between these two teams?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Okay.
Talking to me.
Well,
Talking to you.
Hey, yeah, you talking to you over
I'm
there.
talking to you.
The Eagles are suffering because of some deficiencies on offense and defense that people don't talk much about. Their offensive line is poor. And their defense is not. They've lost players on the defense from last year, and everybody's thinking about how they destroyed Kansas City in the Super Bowl. This isn't the same team at this moment. And Hurts is not Tom Brady. He's not Joe Burrow. Hurts is a very good athlete and a very good quarterback, but he's not the guy that's going to be an A quarterback that can do it all. He's not an inside thrower. He's an outside thrower, and you can't win by throwing outside the numbers all the time. So they don't do much of it, and he's not getting the same protection that he had last year. This is where it all comes down to. Now, when you say a team played 6 games and is not one in the stats at all, it's just that's a result of those issues.
Yes.
And they are not, roster-wise, they are not as good as Minnesota. Minnesota has an extremely good roster. Now, they have a lot of question marks at the quarterback position. They might have they did overrate that J.J. McCarthy could come in and be the savior after having with Darnold last year. That was a mistake. He's not ready. He's going to be very good. He has all the skills, but he's not ready to be an NFL quarterback. He's played a number of games, and he only played 1 quarter where it looked like he knew what the hell he was doing. Now, that could have been a fluke. It could have been the team that he was playing, and it just happened to work. He needs work. He needs a lot of time to learn the position, because throwing the ball is a physical talent. Running the ball is a physical talent, but it's between the ears where you're now playing against people. You got to remember where he came from. They were always the best athletes on his team, playing against people that were not as good as the players on his team. Now he's playing against guys in the NFL who are the best in the world.
Yes.
And he's got to make quick decisions. He's got to know he's never been under that kind of pressure in college. So he needs to learn all of that. Wentz is actually playing well. Not great. He's not a great quarterback, but he's playing efficiently, and he's not making mistakes. He's going to play this week. Minnesota's the better team on the field, and I believe they're going to win this game.
And don't you think Carson Wentz would like to have a piece of Philadelphia this week as well?
He did have a history there. There's no question about it. I believe you're right.
I think he played 1 game against Kansas, against the Eagles when he was with Kansas City. Wentz started once. I think they lost. Okay. But I think Wentz did not have a bad game in that game.
Well, Andy, speaking about this particular football game, these two football teams both look to be playoff bound. What do you think happens on Sunday?
Well, my first question is, are we seeing a repeat for the Philadelphia Eagles of 2023 when they started 10-1 and things imploded? Because we're certainly seeing signs of a lot of disharmony in the Eagles locker room, whether it be the offense and A.J. Brown and controversies with what they lost. In fact, Jim, you talked about the defense. They had another player retire this past week. Was it Zadarius
Smith?
Yeah, he retired. I think he had been a minor contributor this year, but I mean, that's just another disruptive sign that is not good for Philadelphia. So a couple of times, I'm with Jim. I like Minnesota quite a bit this week, and part of it goes to look at Philadelphia the last 2 games. a 17-3 lead at home against Denver. It was 10-3. They scored, the Eagles did, about 2 minutes into the third quarter, 17-3. They never scored again, and of course Denver came back and won that game 21-17, I believe it was. Then the following week, which was last Thursday night, it's a competitive game in the first half. Giants are leading 20-17 at halftime. And what happens? Philadelphia doesn't score a point in the second half, and they lose 34-20. So that's 2 games in a row that the Eagles have played poorly in the second half. And I don't know, maybe there was some friction at halftime in these games where Barkley would say to the coach, "Hey, you get me more involved in the game," or AJ, and maybe that explains why they struggled in the second half. That's just speculation, but it's odd that a team like that would have 2 bad second halves in a row, considering the talent on this team. In fact, Barkley, the running game for Philadelphia has been absent this year. Forget about just Barkley. This team is averaging 95 rushing yards per game, and that includes Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's unthinkable of a team that not quite doubled it, but they were in the mid-100s last year. It's also a very bad spot for the Eagles. You know why? Guess what's on deck for the Eagles? Hey, they get to host those hated Giants who whipped them last week in a rematch, a very quick turnaround rematch. The schedule, I came out, I took a look at that. I said, I see, Eagles, Giants, Vikings, Giants. So, I'm not saying that there's a look ahead or anything, but certainly if there's 2 games, and obviously they'd like to go 2-0, but if they're going to go 1-1, they'd prefer the win to be against the Giants because that's a divisional game, especially one that they've already lost. I just think Minnesota's the better team overall. We don't know about who's going to start because both McCarthy and Wentz have been dealing with injuries. I think for Wentz it's a shoulder injury, but it's not expected to sideline him, and we may not know about McCarthy because he's about ready to be cleared to resume. I just think Minnesota's right now, their defense is playing better than Philadelphia's, and their offense is doing enough, especially since Philadelphia's they're not passing the ball as much as you would like. And I have to think that internally, and they may decide to do something about it. Maybe they made a very poor offensive coordinator hire after Kellen Moore left for New Orleans.
Sorry about that, Andy. Good commentary. I appreciate that very much. Greg DePalma, your take on this big football showdown on Sunday.
Yeah, I think with how crazy the NFL is nowadays, as well as college football, it's things have just gotten really weird. It's the thing I like to do more than anything is to take a look at teams that are, which team is trending in the right direction and which team is not, which team has got some issues they're dealing with and which team does not. And that's definitely the reason why I'm taking the Vikings in this one. We all know the Eagles are dealing with issues. And until they break through those issues, then I think you just either stay away from them or take the other team. Keep in mind that Jalen Carter, who did not play in the Giant game, nobody still knows if he's going to wind up playing. It looks like he will, but that's still something to keep an eye on. Quinyon Mitchell, one of their corners, he's iffy to play, and that secondary is also at this point, the kind of weakness of their defense to begin with. So with Justin Jefferson out there, with Addison out there, you do not want to have to sit Quinyon Mitchell. And it does look like the Vikings are getting healthier on the offensive line. They had a week off. Don't forget when they had back-to-back games overseas, they had 3 starters out in the offensive line. Now, one of them is out for a while. That's Ryan Kelly. Who knows when he's going to come back? He might even retire. He's got some serious concussions he's dealing with, and it might just be, I'd say I'm done with it. But the other 2 guys, the rookie first-round draft pick Donovan Jackson and the veteran tackle Brian O'Neill, they practice this week. And it's really looking like they're going to play, which means that the Vikings will have 4 starters back on the offensive line. Right. So that line will look a lot better than it did a couple of weeks ago overseas. And I do think Carson Wentz is going to play. The last report we have is that Carson Wentz fully participated in practice while JJ was limited. I think that's really all I need to hear. That means that, like you said, Jim, this is the Eagles he's coming up against. You got to feel O'Donnell knows this. Wentz is going to be super pumped to play against them, do anything he can to win the game. And I think, just give JJ another week or 2, let Wentz play. And I think that's the direction they're going to go.
All right, guys, I'm going to take a look at the home dog Vikings here as well in the contest here. And it's all because of my midweek alert beliefs. I mentioned obviously the obvious fact. Philadelphia can't win a game in the stats. Minnesota's won the game in the stats 3 times in a row. The Vikings were home dogs 2 times last year, and they won both games straight up. They're playing some pretty good ball, at least statistically, coming into this game with 3 stat wins in a row. Put me down on the Minnesota Vikings and look for the Eagles' woes to continue to the point where we may even see or begin to hear about a coaching or about a quarterback change in Philadelphia. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. The backup quarterback is his name Tyler McKee.
Yeah, Tyler McKee is a young kid who I think. Yes, I think that I know he's put up big numbers when he's been given the chance to play. I think that he is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL next year. I don't know where it's going to be, but he is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I don't think that they're going to bench Jalen Hurts. If they did, that would be quite a statement. But if I think
it's the play calling that's hurting Hurts. He's not getting a chance to do what he likes to do and was so successful last year with basically the same cast. Yeah, there's issues on the offensive line with a couple of injuries, but the receivers are there. Barkley's there. I just think it's horrible play calling.
Well, I think the knock on Hurts has always been he has difficulty reading defenses. It isn't his strong forte. And McKee coming from Stanford, they say he reads them as well as anybody. So if Nick Sirianni continues to take the heat from the
read him well enough to win a Super Bowl last year.
Yes, he did. There's
and
no
to come within 3 points of winning against Kansas City a few years earlier.
Right. But if they lose this football game, there's going to be, like I say, the Boo Birds in Philadelphia are going to be all over Nick Sirianni to make a move in the game, whether he moving forward. Whether he does or not remains to be seen. I'm just throwing that out there because I talked with somebody in Philadelphia today that they are thinking about looking at McKee if they don't get out of this game with a win.
Well, I have him on my dynasty league, my dynasty team for a reason, because I like him. And I think, like I said, I'd like the Jets to sign him next year. So I think he's going to be, like I said, I think Tanner McKee is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL next season. So I don't think it's one of those things where, all right, let's just drop Hurts because we need to just do something. No, it would be, let's drop Hurts because we really believe in this kid. And before we let him go, let's get him in there to see if he could actually be our quarterback. And then we'll keep him. Now, I don't see all that happening. But that would be the reason why, if they did do that there would be an explanation.
Another good game on tap Sunday. The Houston Texans invade Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Jim, do you think
that's Monday night?
Or Monday night, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah. Do you think this is a pivotal game for Houston in their quest to make the playoffs and continue that run, Jim? Seattle's looking kind of cushy, fat right now, if you will. Can Houston take advantage of them, and what side of this game will you be on?
I'll be on Seattle. I believe in Seattle. I believe that they have they got a good coach. Darnold is I don't know, seeing ghosts, but he's seeing the field very well as well. And he played well last year, and he's playing well again this year. I think Seattle is actually the favorite to win the West right now.
Wow.
I mean, they're playing a very, very good football. And Houston, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but have they corrected their offensive line problems that I don't know how they did, if they did? Because all of a sudden people are giving them credit. I don't see it. I don't see how they've done anything to correct their offensive line problems. Stroud is he's still under duress a lot. He's under duress even when he's not under duress. He's been hit so many times he sees it coming when it's not coming. I don't get it. I think Seattle is definitely the winner of this game.
Well, Jim likes the Seattle Seahawks. He likes them as a team too. I should say that, I know as well. Andy, what do you think happens here? Houston does the Houston win streak, the 2-game win streak that they're on, that kind of gave them new life per se, if you will. Those 2 wins came against Tennessee and Baltimore. Will it be a horse of a different color when they take on Seattle on Sunday or Monday?
Well, and the 26-0 win against Tennessee, that was a 6-0 game into the fourth quarter, and they scored a couple of touchdowns. And still an NFL team that they went up against last week in Baltimore, and they put 44 points on the board. So maybe they're coming out of things a little bit. But I'm going to take a look again at the defense. Despite all the problems Houston had in that 0-4 start, and now they're 2-4, They allowed 14 points to the Rams, 20 points to Tampa Bay, 17 points at Jacksonville, and shut out Tennessee, and 10 points to Baltimore. So the defense has done its job, and maybe the offense is starting to feel a little bit better. I like the Seattle team as well, but I'll take the 3.5.
And he's going to take the 3 and the hook in this football game. Greg, which side are you going to do? Favorite or dog?
Oh, I'm definitely taking Seattle in this spot. I think the one thing I'm worried about, though, is this has not been a good spot for them, especially under their new head coach. Under McDonald, who's only been there now for just over a year, they are 3-8-1 against the spread at home. And that is something that concerns me, especially if just to take a look at how they've looked at home this season. So this is a spot that normally hasn't been good, but it's a big game for them. It's before a bye, national TV game. They've covered 5 straight Monday night games for a reason. This place is very hard to play nationally televised games. Houston's got to go all the way to the West Coast. It's not a east to west, but it's still a West Coast kind of deal trip for them. And they haven't fixed those offensive line problems completely, but they are better than they were last year. There are 4 new offensive linemen. So they were everybody was expecting a lot of the same guys would be back and it'd be a problem, but that's not what they did. They brought in 4 new linemen. They got a rookie at tackle. They've got a new center. They got a new guard, and they have a new right tackle. A new guard. Actually, they got 2 new guards, a center and a right tackle. Howard, the other tackle, right tackle, is the only holdover. So they have been better, but they're still not anywhere near the type of offensive line that wows us. And that Seattle defensive front right now is as good as any's in the NFL. That's what really cooks this team, because take a look at the injuries right now for Seattle. And they've been dealing with these injuries for the past couple of weeks. When you take a look at the secondary for the Seattle, right here, you can see all these players: Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Julian Love. These are 3 starters who have not played over the last couple of weeks, and it's possible they're not going to play again on Monday night. And yet they're still winning. They pretty much shut down Jacksonville last week without these guys. That shows you how imposing the front 7 is for the Seattle Seahawks right now. McDonald's a defensive guy, obviously. He's got that team cooking. Monday night crowd against that Houston offensive line, even though Christian Kirk is back and the offense is healthier than it's been, and that's why maybe you've seen a little bit better production out of Houston lately. But yes, I think Seattle's just a better team right now, and it's a bad matchup for the Texans.
Mark, didn't Seattle lose? They won their first 2 home games last year. Then they lost the final 6 home games last year, and they're 2-3 at home. Or I'm sorry, 1-2 this year straight up at home. And so we think of Seattle having this huge home field advantage, but yet here we are. They've lost, what is that now? 8 of their last 9 home games dating back to early last season.
Yeah, they're 4-8 at home under McDonald. The point Greg pointed out, just 3-8-1 to the spread. So they've really kind of gone contrary reverse.
But the 3-8-1 includes a lot of those straight up losses.
Yes, they do. Yes, but he's also 10-1, if you will, straight up on the road, Seattle Seahawks. Yeah. So he's got a real
one of the few teams that plays, at least the results, much better on the road than at home, which is unusual considering the difficult trip that it is to Seattle. Yet at the same time, 8 of the last 9 teams to make that trip to Seattle have come away with a straight up win.
Mark, I bring this up as anybody that follows me knows that when you have a short favorite with me, it's a money line play for me.
So yes.
That's an automatic for me, in case people don't remember that, or it's the first time listener.
Cool.
Yeah, and I talked about that yesterday. That I was deciding on my wise guy pick this week, and one of the reasons why I just couldn't take Seattle, and I wanted to, was just because it was 3.5, and I was like, I can see them winning by 3. Or losing, because again, the way the home team, the way their record is, and so I was like, that kind of moved it away from me. And changed my mind and decided that the way I was going to go was actually the game that we're going to talk about next.
Well, I'm going to make a split here. 2-2. I'm going to be with Andy and take the 3.5 in the game. So our panel of experts will split on this particular football game. This is a Houston football team. D'Amico Ryan's really interesting number here when he's between the 3s, +3 to -3. And I don't know if the -3 will show there or not. He's 6-1 to the spread in his career in football games that are in the 3-3 range, in that particular range. But what gets me to Houston in this football game is not only McDonald's home road dichotomy, it's the fact that you're talking about a Houston football team that owns 50 yards the better defense in this contest here. So I'll take those 50 yards of better defense and put them up against a Seattle football team that has been struggling unquestionably at home, and hope that hook helps me, but give me Houston plus the points in this football game. I think it's going to be a good Monday Night Football game. We got a good Monday Night Football card this week, but I think well worth the points in this football contest here. Okay, let's move on here to our next football game we've got on tap in the NFL this particular week, and take a look at the big game, the Colts and the Chargers. I'm calling it the big game because we're talking about two football teams here that number one would be the number one seed in the playoffs, the Indianapolis Colts, if it started this particular weekend, and the Chargers, who kind of been up and down, but mainly winning this football season. What do you think goes on here, Jim? Do you like the Colts this year? I know you've been kind of on them most of the football season. Chargers or Colts for you in that football game?
Well, this is a very tough game. And Mark, you made a comment that I think you said the Colts are a fraud. Didn't you say that?
Yes, I did. I think they're a fraud.
Why do you think that?
Well, I love, I don't want to belabor the point about the midweek, but it really gets me into looking at things statistically where I can put tape over the names of teams and see, does their work represent their body, or does their record represent their body of work? And I see a Colts football team here that in 4 of their last 5 football games have allowed season-high yards to the opponents that they played. Season high is season high is season high. They couldn't even think about giving the Chargers a season-high yardage in this particular football game. If they did, I'll say this, if they did, that means the Chargers would put up 404 or more yards in the football game. I think the Colts are a bit of a fraud. They're in here on a 2-game win streak against Vegas and Arizona, 2 struggling football teams. Hence, my reason for the Colts being the fraud, and more than anything, the number 1 seed right now.
Didn't they play on the West Coast in this actual stadium, and they should have beat the Rams except for that stupid play by the guy dropping the ball going to the end zone?
Yep.
Yeah, they should have. But the fact of the matter is they were powdered by 130 yards in the stats in that football game. I think they were thankful that they were even close in the football contest. So, that's kind of where I go to with that, okay?
No, we can't argue with the fact the Chargers have a really good coach.
Yes, they do.
However, they do have a lot of injuries. I mean, they are, like a lot of teams in the league, have a lot of injuries. And if they were in a battle last week against a very dysfunctional Dolphin team, and they were fortunate to win that game. It wasn't, if they were playing anybody else other than Tennessee or the Dolphins or somebody like that, they wouldn't have won. No. Now, I know that, I read your newsletter too, so I can't go against what you wrote in there. It's a very powerful trend for sure. But the Chargers seem to be able to score even if they have all these offensive line injuries and stuff. And 48's a big number. I don't know what to do with this game, honestly. I would lean to the over, but that's, like I said, that's a big number.
So you're kind of torn in between the total or the side itself, is what you're saying.
I don't really have a side. I can't figure. Harbaugh's tough to go against in this situation, and so I'm really not going to do that. But the injuries to the Chargers line really bothers me. So I don't know what to do with this. Sometimes
those injuries are starting to show, Jim. Just in their point spread results, they've lost the money 3 straight games in a row. Lost 2 of the 3 games on the scoreboard. So the injuries, in fact, are indeed showing for the Chargers. It was all on the arm of Justin Herbert that won the game in Miami last week for that football team.
Yes, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jim's going to take a pass on this football game. Am I correct in my assumption there, Jim?
At this moment, unless I see something or hear something between now and game time, yes.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if we can make up his mind for him, guys. Go ahead, Andy.
All right, talk about the Chargers and the offensive problems that they've had. Here's what the Chargers have scored this year offensively, including any defensive and special teams: 27, 20, 23, 18, 10, and 29 last week in that comeback against the Dolphins. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts this year, and my numbers show these teams have basically played a similar strength of schedule. Okay, the Colts have scored 33 against that Miami team. They have scored 29, 41, 20 at the Rams, which should have been 27 because of that fumble, 40 and 31. Daniel Jones has made a big impact on this Indianapolis Colts, and they are scoring. Meanwhile, if you look at what Indianapolis has given up this year, they have 3 games where they allowed 20 or less and 3 others in the mid-20s. But the offense has overtaken the defense. On the other hand, the Chargers still very good, but they've also given up more points. Now, we talk about them leading the league last year in fewest points allowed. Well, so far this year, their best defensive effort, no surprise, allowing 9 points to the Las Vegas Raiders in week 2 and that Monday night game. In their other 5 games this year, they have allowed 20 or more points, which is not something you would expect from a team that has such a great defense last year. In fact, the numbers show, this is somewhat simplistic, but again, I'm going with my numbers that show the average power rating of the opponents are basically even for these two teams. Indianapolis, 32.3 points per game. Chargers, 21.2. Allowed, Chargers 20.8, Indianapolis 19.3, so a 1.5 less per game that the Indianapolis Colts are allowing. I like Indianapolis this game, and a lot of the reason is the problems that the Chargers have scoring with the offensive line, and not the greatest set of receivers. At least there's some good receivers, but also not much of a running game this year.
Well, Greg, are you going to convince Jim to get to the Chargers in this football game or the Colts?
Well, I'm going to make it harder for Jim because I'm going to take the Chargers.
Okay.
I just think it's one of the situations where we all understand what's going on with the offensive line for the Chargers, and it's not going to get any better this week. They're playing backup tackles. That's not very good. I don't know if the Colts, who do have some decent pass rushers, but I'm not sure their defense is going to be able to take advantage of it, most likely because of their secondary. This is another situation where a team is dealing with key secondary injuries. Shadarius Ward, their prize free agent pickup, shutdown corner type, has had a concussion a few weeks ago. We all saw what happened last week, where hopefully people saw what happened last week, where he got concussed during pregame warmups when he wound up getting concussed by his own player. Now, I don't think that when I hear that seems that to me says that dude should probably sit for another month if he's getting concussed in pregame warmups, and he's already had a concussion a couple of weeks ago. So I can't imagine he's going to play this week. That should make things a lot easier for Herbert, who's going to have to find a way to get rid of the ball. And if he does, then you can take advantage of the Colts secondary. So that's something to keep in mind. I also look at it where sort of like what you guys talked about, because bottom line is the Colts have been a road dog once this year. And the bottom line is they lost. And they lost in this very building to a good team. Otherwise, if you look at it, remember, they had lost the Denver game. The game was over. The penalty that was called had nothing to do with the play. The bozo for Denver just made a stupid play, got penalized. They get the re-kick, win the game. So that was already a loss. So they really haven't yet established themselves. But I think they will. I mean, I think that what they've done is impressive. I think they're playing good football. I think they're beating who they need to beat, and they haven't had a bad game yet. So I think if the Chargers win this game, I think it's going to be a game that's going to go down to the late stages of the fourth quarter. But I just think the Chargers are a team right now coming off that big win and that big play by Herbert that you're just going to find a way to win this week.
Well, for the Colts, a big football game, just in the fact that they got Tennessee next week, so a win here and a win next week has them off and sailing into the sunset, and they may not be
7-1.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
They would be 7-1 then.
Yeah. They may not get caught in that in their division if they're able to do just this. My concern is I'm a big Jim Harbaugh fan when it comes to the point spread. I don't like his character. We saw that at Michigan, but the guy wins football games. And what he's done in his career in the National Football League is devour non-division opponents. He's 38-20-3 against the spread. That's better than 65% of all of his NFL games. And I'm talking over 60 games where he's beat non-division opponents, 12-2 in those games against 700 or better opponents. it's my gut feeling here, a little bit with the phoniness, I think, of the Colts, which I called out earlier here. I think the Colts are going to regress rather than keep moving forward here. And if it happens, I think it'll happen against a team like we're able to see here on this particular game against the LA Chargers. All right, guys, that was our big game of the week on tap this week. I want to thank Jim Feist for joining us on the show this week. Jim, as always, it was much appreciated. Your wisdom is second to none, and I'm going to look forward to visiting with you once again on the ATS podcast next week and tomorrow when we do our roundtable with Greg DePalma, you, and myself as we go over the card just before the weekend. I'm going to wish you the best of luck.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Good being here. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. That was Jim Feist, the legend himself, joining us from Las Vegas.
Mark, excuse me, one point I want to make it because it is worth noting about Harbaugh's great record.
Yes.
They've played 3 non-division opponents this year, and they lost to the Giants, they lost to the Commanders, and they almost lost to Miami last week. And those are because they opened against 3 divisional opponents. So I don't know if that has any impact to do it. And the other thing is, what was the record last year? Because a lot of what Harbaugh accomplished was with the 49ers when the 49ers were one of the elite teams.
Yeah, back in his earlier first go round in the National Football League. Yeah, unquestionably. Good point, Andy. Okay, guys, let's go over to the college football side of things on the card this week. And we've got, I think, a handful of good-looking games on tap this week. We had to pare it down to 3 games. And this is going to be the 3 games that we're going to get into. But before I do that, and I hope I don't catch you, Andy, or you, Greg, on the spot, but I wanted to know which college football team you feel that does not have a winning record at this stage of the season do you see most likely getting a bowl bid this year? In other words, which college football team turns it around and goes and makes a bowl bid this football season? Any thoughts on that, Greg, before we move forward, or is it you want to take a little bit of a look?
There are 3 teams that I would put in that category. They would be Kansas State, UCLA, and Florida. So those would be the 3 teams that are sub 500 that if I had to predict today, I would predict that they'd go bowling. And I think Florida's got the toughest road because of their schedule. So that's the one that I'd be, and there are a couple of games under 500. So I'd be a little bit more weary with Florida, but just schedule. That's all. UCLA, there are also a couple of games under 500, so they got work to do. But boy, if they just turn their entire season around like a dime, and I don't think that's going to go away. So, I mean, because they have, a very talented quarterback. He's always been there this season. It's just been needing the proper coaching, and now he's got it. The turnaround in just 2 weeks has been fantastic. If they win this week and they're favored, there'll be a game under 500. And I know they're not going to win next week, but I'm going to be very intrigued. If they were to win easy this week against Maryland and then they go in and play Indiana next week, I actually think that might be an interesting game. But those would be the 3 teams. Chris Kleiman, like you said, Mark, they've played a lot of close games, and they just have made dumb decisions at wrong times or bad luck, and they just haven't been able to get over the hump for the most part. But they, the Big 12, the schedule does leave it to where they should be able to get to a bowl this season, and that's why I picked those 3 teams. Well,
who is the UCLA interim coach, Greg, that's taken over for Foster?
His name is Skipper, and no, his assistant coach is not Gilligan. So the thing with Dan. Yeah. Dan Skipper was an assistant coach, I think, at Fresno State last year. I think he actually was interim coach when they made the change. And so he is now their assistant who turned to head coach. So, yeah, it is possible, but that he keeps the job, no question, if he can have this big turnaround. But keep in mind that really everything changed when they switched over to Rick Neuheisel's son as the offensive coordinator. And that's why you've seen this offensive explosion the last couple of weeks. So, and it's funny because he's got Rick's hair. He's got his blonde hair. And so, it's one of those things that I think people are already kind of thinking that would they hand the head job to him? But I don't see why they would do that if Skipper's the one who's the head coach and he's obviously older. So just bring Skipper back, let Neuheisel be the offensive coordinator next year and go from there. But first you got to keep winning football games.
Well, good point there about the UCLA Bruins here. And interestingly, they would be coming completely off the map. They started 0-4 to begin the football season. If they win this game and they go into Indiana next week, Andy, and shock the Hoosiers, okay, do they make this interim coach a permanent head coach? That's the question here for this UCLA football team, because they've really come
I
alive.
would think it might come down to also beating USC.
In the last game of the season?
If they beat USC, he probably gets the job.
Well, I think if he has Penn State and Indiana bullets on his holster, that might be at least worthy enough for the conversation anyway.
Yeah, he may get the job before the USC game. Certainly if he beats Indiana, you'd have to think so.
So, Andy, who would be your team or teams that you think right now are struggling that you see would be in a college bowl game?
Okay. So you're talking about they don't have to be winning teams, just non-losing teams, correct?
Yeah, just
so
we could be 500 or less, and are going to rally.
Well, if they win one of their next 3 games, which are going to be the 3 toughest games on their schedule,
I know right where you're going.
Penn State.
Okay,
change in coaching. Okay, was that what you were thinking or not?
No, but I'm going to give you a team that fits that same parameter.
Okay.
But go ahead.
I'm just going to mention with Penn State, they are at Iowa this week, then they're at Ohio State, and then they host Indiana. So they could be 3-6, but then they finish at Michigan State, at home to Nebraska, and at Rutgers, all of which are going to be winnable games, and you might even have some favorable point spreads in there, especially if the interim coach is able to say, hey, guys, we're not going to meet the goals that we thought, number 2 team in the country coming into the season, but we still have a chance to have a winning season by winning our last 3 games and winning a bowl game, and if the players can buy into it, although you'd have to believe if they lose Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana, they're probably going to be very, very much down, and they may not be interested in playing the rest of the season. But as far as, even with Aller now out as a quarterback, they will have that potential, and I think it'll be a challenge for the coach, especially if he has an idea of being named the permanent coach, which I guess is unlikely because Penn State's going to go after a big name, but at least build some momentum for next year. Perhaps he can sell that to the underclassmen.
Good points. The team that I thought you were going to go to, that you were alluding to, is one of the teams that I'm going to go to. It's South Carolina, a football team that a lot more was expected from this team than we're seeing so far. They're 3-3 on the season. Lenora Sellers, their quarterback, has not played well, but he has the ability to do just that. But look at their next 3 games. They got Oklahoma today or this Saturday, then Alabama. Then they're at Ole Miss and at A&M. Yeah. So if they end up in a bowl game this year, it's because they ended up pulling the rug out on 2 of those 3 football teams. But I've got to put them on my potential list to look at. The guy that I like the most is one that Greg DePalma called out, is Kansas State.
Yeah.
And one of the primary reasons I'm looking at Kansas State is what I alluded to earlier in the year. Their 4 football losses this year are all 1-score losses. And teams that suffer 1-score losses that have ability, a lot more was expected from, can easily turn those things around because it tells you that they were at least competitive in those football games. And, what was a 1-score loss can very easily turn into a 1-score win, if for no other reason, just because of the law of averages. So I'm going to put me down for Kansas State with South Carolina for my backup.
Kansas State also has a law. If you throw out the COVID season, which is the bizarre season, and you check in your preview magazine, they've been bowling in those other 9 years in the last decade. So that's a little bit of a perhaps a motivational thing that that Kleinman can use as far as that goes. And the talent is there. Certainly, they were considered amongst the favorites, even along with Texas Tech before the season started, to win the conference.
Exactly, and as Greg and I allude to, we're both big Chris Kleinman fans, and I don't think he's going to let this thing slip through his fingers and get away on him. But let's get into our college football top games on the card this week. And as always, it seems to always be teams from the Power 4 conferences, and usually the Southeast Conference or the Big Ten. And we've got a mix of that this particular week. Our first game, Missouri, going to Auburn on Saturday. Greg DePalma, Missouri at Auburn. Missouri makes their first road game of the season. Here it is mid-October, and they haven't set a foot outside of Columbia. What do you think happens to the Battle of Tigers? Which Tiger wins it, the one from Missouri or the one from Auburn?
Yeah, well, another situation, like I said before, with patterns of which team is just feeling good and which team's not. And it's obvious that Missouri, even though they're coming off their first loss, that was a competitive loss to a very good football team. So they have nothing to be ashamed about. They're not going to go undefeated. So they're still striving for an SEC championship and a playoff run. Auburn, it's just about respectability and trying to see if Hugh Freeze can, be the head coach next year. Keep making progress. I don't think Auburn needs to win this game for that to happen. I still believe they're going to go bowling 6-6. The schedule does permit that. They have a really good defense once again, but their offense is just one-dimensional. Missouri, meanwhile, has been a fantastic start to the season, as we know. Drinkwitz is an excellent coach. But what really sticks out to me is that Missouri has outgained all 6 of their opponents, including Alabama last week. And Auburn is 0-3 in that department in the SEC. So right there, it's telling you who the better team is. Also, Missouri on the road as a road favorite has covered. Actually, they're on a 6-0 run. They were 3-0 last year. They were 3-0 in 2023. And I think they'll start off 1-0 in 2025.
So Greg looks for Missouri to bounce back in this football game. Andy, what do you see happens here? Missouri wins or Missouri loses?
Well, if you recall last week on the show, I thought this was going to be your best bet in the newsletter this week because we talked about Missouri playing 5 home games, and now Alabama made it 6 in a row, and this was going to be their first road game. And I said that regardless of the result, it's a bad spot for Missouri to go on the road for the first time. And and you did make, I think, in the newsletter, I believe you did go with Auburn, but I'm going to give some other reasons. Here are the teams that Missouri played in the first 5 weeks of the season at home: Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, good team, they won that one. UMass, not a good team, they won that one, and Alabama. Here's who Auburn has played the last 3 weeks: at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, at home to Georgia. So Auburn has played a much more difficult schedule than has Missouri coming into this game, notwithstanding Missouri's game last week against Alabama. I like Auburn in this game, and I think that the rest of the schedule is somewhat favorable to them. They have, after this Missouri game, which might be the toughest of the remaining games other than the season ender against Alabama, but this one is at home, at Arkansas, at home to Kentucky, at Vanderbilt, and that won't be easy either, depending upon how Vanderbilt is at the time, and then their non-conference gimme against Mercer. So Auburn has a chance to really make some noise, although they won't be able to play for the SEC championship game. They can still get a very nice bowl bid and build up some nice momentum and get ready for that Alabama game. And this is not the same Alabama team that we've seen the last few years, although they have done very well. I do have to wonder a little bit what to take out of that first loss that Alabama had to Florida State, considering Florida State's issues recently. But that was then, this is now, and I like Auburn to win and cover this game. And if they win by a field goal, they cover. Well, if they lose by 1, they cover. But if they win by a field goal, they'll certainly be a nice little play as well. And I've got a little bit on the money line on them as well.
All right, guys, I'll break the tie between Auburn and Missouri, and I will take the Tigers in this game. The Auburn Tigers.
I was waiting for that.
I kind of wanted to do a little Lee Corso there, but I don't have any headgear. Okay. But this is, I think, a pivotal game for not only the Auburn Tigers, but I think for Hugh Freeze. He's lost 3 straight games in a row, sitting at 3-3 in the football season here. He comes off of 4 consecutive losing seasons in a row at Auburn. They've had 4 7-loss seasons. Enough is enough is enough, I think they'll say with Hugh Freeze, if he doesn't get this thing turned around ASAP. Closing out, not so bad. They got to go to Vanderbilt, which I think they're capable of maybe pulling on the rug out in the Commodores, and they close out, as they always do, at home against Alabama. But everything in between, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mercer, Arkansas, Kentucky could be winnable football games for this team. I think this becomes the pivotal game in Hugh Freeze's career at Auburn here. Yep. I like the fact that in that loss, if you take a look at that loss, when they lost to Georgia in their last game, they held the
controversy.
Yeah, a controversial loss for sure. A controversial loss. We wouldn't be talking about 3 losses in a row in Hugh Freeze's job had that controversy not occurred in the football game. But they held the Bulldogs to 296 yards. That is their watermark low for the football season, the Auburn Tigers. And I think their defense is really, really unsung in that sense. If they can establish a run in this football contest, or the running game with Arnold, their quarterback, I think they win the game and get the money. My side on it. So 2-1 for Auburn as far as our cast of experts goes in this football game. But let's get to our game of the week on tap this week. And it does not involve a Big Ten or a Southeast Conference team on one side of the equation, but it does on the other. Notre Dame is going to host Southern Cal. It has always been a must-watch football game. And before we get there, guys, I'm going to kind of drift off a little bit here, but one of my fondest memories in all of football in my younger years was a good friend of mine, Tom Scott. He lived in Granger, Indiana, which was the home of Notre Dame football, right? It's a suburb right outside of South Bend. And he invited my wife and I to his house for the weekend that Florida State came into Notre Dame to play them. And we went to the football game, and it was really, really great. I'm sitting there in my short leather coat in 15-degree weather and just freezing my gonads off. But I just loved being there.
Were you living in Florida at the time, or were you still in Cleveland?
I was in Cleveland, so I was kind of half accustomed to it. Okay. But on the sidelines, I remember right in front of us was the sideline reporter in the football game for NBC, and that reporter was O.J. Simpson.
Oh,
and for some reason, that just stuck out to me. This has got to be a big game. It also stuck out to me because I used a 5-star on Florida State in that game, and it cashed. So I'll always remember.
That would do it.
Yes.
I thought maybe because you rented from Hertz and drove to Notre Dame.
No.
OJ was the spokesman there for many years.
He was the spokesperson. He sold me, right? But Greg, what do you think happens here? Trojans and the Fighting Irish. Your big game for both teams here. Notre Dame really can't afford a loss if they're entertaining college football playoff aspirations, and Southern Cal really has to kind of win out themselves as well. They're playing their best football of the season. I think this has to be the potential of being one of the better games in the series. What do you think happens between the Trojans and the Irish this Saturday, Greg?
Well, I don't think needing to win the game is going to be a big difference here. But just keep in mind that, yes, if you just wanted to go that route, Notre Dame needs the game more. This is it for them. They lose, they're done. They win, and their schedule the rest of the way is extremely manageable. If they win, they are going to run the table, and they will be in the playoffs. This is their last big obstacle to get to the playoffs. As far as USC, it's not a conference game. So if they lose this game, they could still find themselves in a Big Ten championship. They have another big one left at Oregon, and that's it as far as big games. So if they could, if they lose this game and they're competitive and they show that they can still fight and be a team to watch the rest of the way, they could win that game at Oregon and could find themselves in the Big Ten championship game and in the postseason. So again, that's just if you want to go down that route. As far as the game itself, we talked about USC last week, that I was real interested to find out if they could show up, and therefore could they be a team to look out for the rest of the way. So yeah, they passed the test. Now the question is, they're going to come right back on the road and play even a better team. And this is going to be even a bigger test. The point spread is the only thing that really bothers me if you want to take Notre Dame, because it's a pretty big spread, and USC has got a lot of talent, and I could definitely see them covering the game. And as bad as Lincoln Riley is as a road favorite with USC, he's equally good as a road dog. Matter of fact, he's 5-1 against the spread as a road dog with USC. But keep in mind, too, Notre Dame is 10-4-1 against the spread as a home favorite in the last 15, 3-1 in that role this year. And in the series, the favorite has won the last 9, covered 7 of 9, and the favorite is 4-0 straight up and against the spread the last 4 years alone. So I'm going to take Notre Dame, but I would say that if you are thinking about USC, and I am as well, as what if they win this game, I believe they are as high. They're in the hundreds to win the national championship. So, because trust me, if they win this game, they are going to be a legitimate playoff caliber team. And anybody that makes the playoffs is going to have a chance to win the national championship this year. So if you think they can win this game, go ahead and put a few bucks on USC to win the national championship.
That's not a bad thought and idea at all, because this sort of does put them in the talk, at least, with their only loss of the season by 2 points earlier at Illinois, which is not a bad loss at all, to say the least. Andy, what do you think between these two football teams? You taking or you laying?
Not sure I'll play it, but if I did, it would be Notre Dame. This point spread seems a little bit high, although power ratings do suggest double digits are defensible as far as that goes in this game. They're at 9.5 right now. It may go up to 10. I like this USC team. I had them big last week against Michigan. We talked about it, I think, last week being sort of a defining game for Lincoln Riley at USC. Greg is absolutely right. We talked about it earlier. In fact, I think I may have even mentioned something about this game last week when I liked USC against Michigan, because the game this week we knew was going to be so important for Notre Dame because of those 2 early season losses. Not crazy about laying that number, which is why I will probably stay away from the game. But again, it is a non-conference game for USC. They still have designs on playing for a Big Ten championship, which I think is just important. I am concerned about the revenge aspect of it, because this is a traditional rivalry. It might as well be a conference game as far as the intensity of that rivalry, which goes back, half a century or more. USC has lost the last 2 games to Notre Dame, including last year. So it was a high-scoring game. It was like 45-39, something like that. So that does concern me a little bit, but that was also such a defining win for USC that they could be a little bit flat here. It's always tough to play at Notre Dame, especially when Notre Dame has a good team, and the defense for the Irish has rounded into shape, and we may see USC struggle a little bit more than they have in recent games offensively.
Well, I'm going to take a look. I think this is a football game that there's enough hang room here for Southern Cal to make a case. And Notre Dame probably needs the game a little bit more, as you mentioned, but needing the game and having to win by 11 points might be 2 different stories. This is a Southern Cal football team, to me, that is playing with the same consistency now that they did the first year when Lincoln Riley took over the program, and they won 11 games that football season here. There's nothing they've done wrong thus far this football season. The defense could be a little bit questionable, but they still won the yards in all but 1 game so far this season here. What's interesting to me, if you take a look at Southern Cal, when they playing at South Bend here, 13-4-1 to the spread is a dog of 7 or more points. Nice little number there. Yes, Notre Dame has cashed 7 straight tickets in a row against the Big Ten. 2 of those against Southern Cal, as we alluded to, they're off a 2-game losing streak here. But I also like the fact that Southern Cal, when they're playing with the better record in this series, they're 5-0 straight up and against the spread. And that's what they'll take the field with here, the better record in this contest, and also taking conceivably double digits as well. So put me down for Southern Cal plus the points in another football game that I'd love to cop out and say could likely come down to the last score. Whoever scores wins the football game.
USC is they've moved down from I think they were a little bit higher last week. They're now down to 60-1 at DraftKings. So you could probably, which is still a very, very big number. So if you again, if you think USC can beat Notre Dame, why not? 60-1 is you only need to put a few bucks on there to make a few bucks. So
how about their odds to win? How about their odds to win the Big Ten championship?
The Big Ten, let's see. That means
Ohio State and Indiana probably ahead of them.
Yeah, they're actually still 28-1.
And
that's a fourth choice.
Yeah, I think that's a better bet because it only means 1 game.
Well, they don't play Ohio State or
if
Indiana.
They make it in.
Right.
Yeah, Mark, you're right. They don't play Ohio State and Indiana, and that could be a problem. They do get to play Oregon, which would knock them out, which would mean that they'd have to probably win a tiebreaker. And then I don't know what the Big Ten tiebreaker could end up being highly ranked. It's possible. I know a few years ago it was like the last team who wasn't in it. So it changes every year, the tiebreaker. So check that out. I guess the one good thing that you have by taking the championship over the Big Ten is that you don't have to win the Big Ten. You don't have to get in there. You can actually still make it as the 3rd best Big Ten team. And I believe it. Obviously, if they run the table and they don't get in as a 1-loss team, they're going to the playoffs.
I think they will too. I think this is honestly, I think it's maybe arguably the best game in the card this Saturday. There may be some others you can argue and make a case for, but I think this one just may be the best game on the card on Saturday.
Yeah, there's two good night games on Saturday night. You've got that one, and you've got the Holy War. And the Holy
BYU,
War,
Utah, yeah.
It's interesting. It's one of 3 6-0 dogs this week, as Mark is well aware. And that's something you got to keep in mind. So Georgia Tech, UNLV, and BYU are all 6-0 dogs this week.
Who looks like they don't fit in that group?
By the way, Mark, were we going to do the Georgia Ole Miss game?
Did I skip over that? Did I skip over that, Andy?
I think so. I think you had that listed.
If I have it listed, let's do it. Okay.
Yeah, the thing with the Utah BYU game is Utah is coming off a horrible season last year. They did play BYU. BYU beat them by 1 point. As bad a year as Utah was having, 22-21, they lost. So they are playing with revenge here, but they're favored.
Yeah.
That's why I like BYU there. They can
favored on the road.
Utah can get their revenge 24-21, and BYU will cash.
Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. I did skip past another big game, Ole Miss at Georgia. That could arguably be the game of the week here as well. Big game here for both teams. Greg, which side are you going to be going on, taking or laying the points in this contest?
I'm going to go ahead and take the points. Georgia, as you saw last week in the Auburn game, they're just not the same team. I don't see them as the type of team that can just easily handle Ole Miss. And I don't care what happened last week with Ole Miss. That meant nothing. They clearly overlooked Washington State. And as I said yesterday, Washington State, that is not a bad team. They got a head coach that is a winning coach that won a national championship at South Dakota State over the last couple of years. He knows what he's doing. It's the only team to beat San Diego State this year. So Washington State, again, I'm not saying that forgives Ole Miss as a 30-point, favorite to squeak by, but just to show it wasn't like they were playing UMass. Right. But I just think this Ole Miss team this season is closer now to Georgia than I think they've ever been, because Georgia is no longer the powerhouse team. They're just the same. I think they're very, very much the same as an Ole Miss type team. This is going to come down to, a whole bunch of little factors in the fourth quarter, that sort of thing. I don't care that Ole Miss won last year, and I'll look at that as any sort of revenge for Georgia. And the thing I do like is Lane Kiffin. That's because Lane Kiffin is 10-4-1 against the spread over his career as a dog when he takes on a team with a win percentage of 750 or better. And Georgia's only 4-11 against the spread in their last 15 as a home favorite since 2023, 1-2 in that role this year. So I'm taking Ole Miss with the points. I love the 7.5, and I even might throw a few bucks on the money line as well.
Andy Iskoe, the points attractive to you or not?
Oh, very much so. This is not the same Georgia team. Still a good team, still very good defensively. But, and Greg mentioned a number of reasons. Lane Kiffin's a quality coach. And, they lost what is now a starter in the NFL in Jackson Dart. And they've yet continued to play well. And that's Lane Kiffin's MO as far as being able to develop quarterbacks and being able to be innovative on offense, going back, USC, back to his, Tennessee for a brief while. That he's had success. Kirby Smart is really good, and I could see this coming down to a field goal. I think the points are very generous for this matchup.
Well, the points are very attractive to a team the quality of Ole Miss. We're talking a football team that will be in the college football playoff and could make it to the Final Four. Lane Kiffin is one of the top coaches in all of college football. There's no question about it. And I agree wholeheartedly with Greg. You have to throw the Washington State game out. They just paid the penance for scheduling a team like that in the middle of their SEC run here. Then they end up paying the price. I don't think they'll do that again. They'll wait till the Mercers of the world are available later in the season. But nonetheless, they're going to go and take on a Georgia football team this week that I think needs this game a whole lot more than Ole Miss does. And if Georgia wins this football game, it's sort of like last year. Remember last year when everybody was off the Georgia Bulldog train? And what did they end up doing? They ended up winning the last 4 games of the season and making it to the college football playoff when nobody had them in the college football playoff with 2 losses at that stage of the season here. They've got one loss this right now. If they lose this game, they'll have 2 for the season here. They have to play Texas later on in the season here. They're going to have to beat Texas and or Ole Miss, I think, to make the college football playoffs. But the thing that really gets me is this, and I'm not crazy about this number. I'm not going to play it because of the number, but the reason it'll keep me out of Ole Miss is the fact that Kirby Smart has been outstanding in his career when he has revenge, and he's been favored by more than 6 points in those games. He's 6-0 straight up and against the spread, and he's also 10-1 straight up, 8-3 the number at home against undefeated FBS teams. I think you're going to see the best Georgia has this particular week, and I know I'm trying not to buy into the poor, disappointing performance by Ole Miss last week because there were reasons, and you can throw them all out the window. But this is a dog in Ole Miss that I think I'm going to let go here. A trap situation for them, maybe. But being the dog lover that I am, I'll wake up Sunday morning and read the scoreboard and say, what the heck was I thinking here? Ole Miss is a dog of that size, and I let it go. But this week I'm going to let it go because I think this Georgia football team is better than they've shown, and they have a lot more reason to play this game.
Mark, I have a question for you as far as the way some of the things in these databases, and you talked about Georgia being or Kirby Smart being so great against teams that are unbeaten. Is there a parameter as far as do you include like a team that Georgia's at home facing a 1-0 team, or does it have to be like 3-0 or 4-0 and better to qualify as meaningful?
Well, that's a great question. And for the sake and purpose of this, it includes anybody that was 1-0 or better, because that's how I asked it out of my database. I could drill deeper and say any team that's 4-0 or better, which is probably the better way to do that. But when I put it in as at home against undefeated teams, up pops 10-1 and 8-3 of the spread.
Now, do you include? I don't believe, because I don't think you have it in the magazine. You don't include games against FCS opponents, do you?
No, because basically my database does not put lines to those games. So
Because like if Georgia opens the season, as a lot of teams do, playing like an East Tennessee State, that would is that game in the database, or are they not included in the database because there are no point spreads, and so therefore you're only looking at FBS teams?
The score is in the database. It's just that you're not going to be able to find out anything about East Tennessee State because we don't log those teams. Okay. So
no, but I'm saying, would that count as would that be in your database in Georgia's game number 2, that Georgia is facing a team that is 1-0 even though it's not an FBS team, or is it just excluded?
Yes, it would count them. It would include the 1-0 East Tennessee State team. Okay. Yes, it would. Yes, right.
Yeah, and also Ole Miss, because I don't know how I forgot them, but because I probably didn't even realize, because you don't think of an SEC team as a 6-0 dog, but that makes 4 6-0 dogs this week. So you've got Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, UNLV, and BYU. Those are your 4 6-0 dogs this week.
Which would be interesting if you did a 4-team money line parlay of all the favorites and a 4-team money line parlay of all the dogs. And you hope that there's either a sweep one way or the other. More likely the favorites. But that would still pay nicely even if you're laying a big price.
Well, guys, a great show once again.
Mute, Mark.
Sorry about that, guys. I was on mute. Good call, Greg. Great show here once again this week. I've got a roll here. I've got some people unexpectedly here that are knocking at my door. And with that, I'm going to say that we're going to wrap on this show.
Just hope they're not trick-or-treaters. It's a little early.
Not early, that's for sure, because they'll find no candy here, that's for sure. Greg, I'm going to look forward to working with you tomorrow with Jim on our Friday show. We'll get the football card prepared for the weekend here. On
3 o'clock tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
3 o'clock tomorrow.
3 o'clock.
We have a new time.
Tomorrow. Yes, we're going to push it back just a little bit. But until then, I want to thank Andy Iskoe from TheLogicalApproach.com.
By the way, I will remind that I think, Jim, we said at the start of the show, we're going to we missed last week. Jim was under the weather a bit, but we're going to do that show on the contests and the teasers and alternate lines. I will mention one thing about the Survivor contest. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. There is $90,000 of free money in this contest because, believe it or not, 90 people in the first 6 weeks of the season did not turn in a pick in Survivor.
90. Wow.
$1,000 entry fee just down the drain.
Can you get those phone numbers for me, Andy, so I could give him a call and see if I could
Well,
have them
the
invest
funny
some
thing
money
is, though,
with me?
it's 90 individuals because once you're eliminated, there's no pick to turn in the next week. So it's hard to believe that people were 5-0 and 5 people last week did not turn in a pick for week 6. But
You disappeared on us, Mark. And you're still muted.
and we're still recording.
Let me get,
Okay.
Weird. There you go.
Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm being pulled in 2 directions here, but nonetheless, I got to get out of here, guys. I want to thank you, Andy. Great job on the show, as always, as you do each and every week. I look forward to hearing what you have to say with Jim Feist on the Proline TV network. Greg, I'll look forward to working with you and Greg tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. And until then, once again, for the experts and the panelists here at the Against the Spread podcast, this is Marc Lawrence reminding you to always remember to bet with your head, not over it, and good luck as always.